Hi, folks. It's Mark Murphy with TravelTube.com. Just a quick reminder, please go to the website, sign up for our weekly newsletter. You'll get all the videos from great content creators, including myself. But I mostly do the podcast. You'll see some clips where we've traveled around the world. I've been to about 80 countries, give or take two or three. I'm guessing. I don't have a map where I mark them all down, but I've traveled quite a bit. And people mistakenly believe that I'm a travel agency owner or I've worked in the industry. I've never worked in the travel industry. I've never worked in the travel agency channel. I have just covered it, observed it, run a business that addresses their information needs. At one point, I was running the largest travel uh, news site in the world called travelpulse.com. I sold that along with my other brands back in 2019. Thank God, right before COVID hit. So that's good. At the same time, I decided to start traveltube.com so I could showcase and bring together the expertise of these advisors, influencers, suppliers, destinations from around the world and deliver it in a single place. And the reason for that is simple. If you're a travel agent and you're checking out a property in Cancun, there's probably a travel agent checking out a property in Maui, and there's probably one taking a safari in Africa, and on down the line. And if we could aggregate those experiences and share those insights either through the podcast or through content that they create when they're out there, it's a win-win all the way around. And that's why I'm doing it. Uh, what's interesting is we post clips of these hour-long podcasts all over the place. They're on Instagram, they're on TikTok, they're on Facebook, you name it, right? What's also interesting is it also goes out on a podcast app. And for those who want to consume content the way they want to consume it, instead of sitting at a computer as a travel advisor, you can take it on the road. You can listen to it offline. You can listen to it on your favorite podcast app. You can download it on Spotify and watch the video and have the content right there if you're on your train commute, whatever it happens to be. Oh, it's also on YouTube. So it's literally everywhere. And what's interesting to me are the number of comments I get. And last week was a doozy, to be frank. I mean, we've only been operating since about April. So if you look at April till today, we're still under 9 months of being out there. And one of the clips we shared blew up. And it was an interview I did with a travel agent last week in the luxury travel segment. But before I get to that, I want to talk about what's a travel agency. The reality is the average consumer that is the DIY person, they're like, I'm doing it myself. And we got a lot of those comments on a clip that featured an agent where she talked about what she brings to the table, booking with her versus booking direct with the hotel or resort. And because it was a limited clip, it didn't have the full context of what she said. So I'm going to show you the full context today. And hopefully those folks will get a look at that because I've been trying to respond to them, but we're well over 100 comments already and they keep flooding in. I think we're at 12 or 13,000 views on that one piece that's running on TikTok. So again, the average person, they think that when they book it themselves, 9 times out of 10, where are they booking it? They're booking it on Expedia or Orbitz or Priceline or you name it, right? Booking.com. And they're like, yeah, I do it myself. I don't need a travel agent. Hello, Earth to DIY person. Just a little clue. That's a travel agency. It's called an OTA. It's called an online travel agency. And what you're doing is you're doing a self-service booking with no customer support for the most part. Have you ever tried to call somebody Expedia if things go awry? Good luck. Good luck. I wish you the best. 9 times out of 10, they'll send you to the hotel. Call the hotel. Because all they are is a transaction tool. They're not there to grease the wheels before you get there with the GM or the sales manager at the hotel. No, they just want the transaction. And I don't blame them. It's a great business. But if you think you're doing it yourself and saving money, let me explain something to you. And this is really critical when it comes to hotels and resorts. The vast majority of hotels, especially a branded hotel, think of any hotel brand you can imagine. Those hotel brands, what do? They created 2 decades ago something called a best rate guarantee. And the reason they did that is because they wanted to let customers know that you're not going to find a better price on this hotel anywhere else. We're going to give you the best price at Marriott.com or whatever the brand is. You're going to get the best price right here. That doesn't mean the other sites don't have matching prices. They do. The reason they did that was so that those Expedias, et cetera, which were undercutting their prices and trying to create a disadvantage to the brand, they said, stop it. You can't do it anymore. And if you want to work with us, knock it off. And they've done that now for a couple of decades. Virtually every brand you see out there has a best rate guarantee. Now, one of the ways around that is when it's booked as a package. You got a transfer, you've got the resort, you've got a car rental, you've got airline tickets, et cetera, and they can bundle it together and you'll get a package price, which is typically more competitive than what you would get if you were booking all the components individually. But that also allows them to make the pricing not transparent. It makes it opaque. So there's a little bit of wiggle room there. But for the vast majority of folks and how they book hotels and resorts, when they do it themselves, they're using one of these third parties. They're not getting a better rate, not getting a better deal. They're getting the same deal they would get if they went to the corporate site itself or if they went to the travel agency. Except the travel agency, depending on the quality of the product, meaning higher end, gets higher benefits when it's booked through a travel agency. And that's one of the questions I asked this lady, Becky Lukovic, last week. So interesting enough, the comments were really, really pretty sharp. Now, I know that the context was limited. But even when I explain that by responding to a number of comments, and there's well over 100, so I can't keep up, and they keep coming in like by the hour. But I can tell you that even when I explained that it wasn't the full context, that here are the things that you get. And I just gave an example, like if I stayed at the Peninsula Hotel in Chicago, for instance, and I booked it direct with the hotel, and I was there for 3 nights. I pay for the 3 nights. Let's say it's $600 a night, $1,800 plus tax, et cetera. And that would be my booking. However, if I booked it through a travel agent that was affiliated with a group that had these insider deals, and there's plenty of them, more often than not, they had these special deals running that if I book 2 nights, I get the 3rd night free. That just saved me $600. That just brought the effective rate down by 33%. Wow. So I'm getting the Peninsula for the price of the Hilton 2 blocks away. But folks, it gets better than that. And this is what I was explaining in the comments. It gets better than that because I always book as if 2 people are staying in the room, even though it's just me as a business traveler, because for whatever reason, I'm like an ectomorph. I'm always eating, but I rarely gain weight. And so when I get up in the morning, I have my first breakfast. And anybody who's had a breakfast in a nice hotel, even a 3.5, 4-star hotel, it can run $20, $30, $40. Well, my memory serves me. I got a $40 credit for each person, and I was just one every day. I would get my first breakfast. I'd have my coffee, and I'd eat like some toast with some peanut butter and maybe a little bit of jelly to sweeten it up. And then I would go hit the gym. Afterwards, I would have my full breakfast, and it would cost me nothing because it was included. And then in some cases, I would get like $150 spa credit, which would pay for about 75% of a 1-hour massage. So if I had time, I would make that available. All while nobody in the public domain that's doing it themselves or booking on Expedia or going directly to the travel supplier, the resort, the hotel website is getting. Now, people ask me, why do they do that? Why does a high-end hotel or resort provide those extra benefits when it's booked through one of their preferred partners at a travel agency? Well, because people that have the means to spend 600 or more dollars a night on a hotel typically like to have service related to that hotel and that booking. And even though we have the money to book it and pay the full freight, doesn't matter. We still want the best value for the money. And the hotel realizes that that customer is a customer that tends to be loyal, tends to want that level of service, tends to bring in net more revenue over time to that hotel, tends to spend money in the gift shop, tends to spend money in the bar having drinks that night, maybe stays in the hotel and has dinner that night. And the overall impact on the hotel, even though they're giving those things, quote, away, is a better experience for the traveler and more revenue and profit to the hotel. That's why they do it. So it depends for you as a traveler what the benefit of using a travel agent is. Like, should you use a travel agent? I use them sometimes, other times I don't, but I'm also somebody that's dialed into the industry. So even though I'm not a travel agent, if I'm using my platinum card, I'm booking with an American Express travel agent who gets me the Fine Hotels and Resorts program, which has many of those benefits. I used to have a black card. I couldn't justify the annual fee based on how I was using it after selling my company. So I got rid of it and just downgraded to a platinum. Shout out to Morgan Stanley because I don't have to pay that $900 fee or whatever the hell it is because I get a rebate on it. So it's literally doesn't cost me anything and I get all these benefits. But even if it does cost you the 900 or whatever the heck they just raised it to, there's about $2,500 in value that you get in terms of things related to that credit card, which brings up another way to book, which is one of the ways you can book is obviously using a certain type of credit card and going through a certain channel. Somebody on the TikTok video was like, "Oh, I just used my platinum card, this and that, and I booked the Fine Hotels and Resorts program." I was like, "Good for you. FYI, you're booking with a travel agent when you book that, even though you think you're doing it yourself." Again, there's a huge disconnect. So I believe that depending on the product you're booking, in other words, if you're flying from Atlanta to Nashville, you're booking Southwest, and you're going to spend 2 nights at the Hilton, and you're going to go bar hopping, easily do that yourself. No one's saying you can't. Would a travel agent handle that for you? Absolutely. Could they set up dinner reservations and other things for you? Sure. Some do. Some are really good. Some not so good. And that's the other thing. Somebody was on there complaining that they tried 3 travel agents and were booking a cruise and they got a better deal doing it themselves. And the agents didn't know what the hell they were talking about. Well, I had a lawyer who never filed to dissolve one of my LLCs. And I had to carry that business for an extra year and spend thousands of dollars preparing tax returns and other things because he sucked. And I went for the cheaper option when I started the company. And I learned very quickly that you don't want to be cheap when it comes to financial advice, meaning like a great accountant, tax guy, et cetera, estate planners for lawyers, as well as financial guys. And from a legal standpoint, you want to get the best possible legal advice because it'll cost you a lot more. And that's when I went from spending $150 to $200 for an hour to $400 to $500 an hour for legal advice. So with that said, I want to get into the clip that was on TikTok, and I'm going to show you the first part of the clip where everyone is like, she's not giving me any good reasons. She just told me why I shouldn't, why I shouldn't use a travel agent. Well, they didn't really scream because they just put comments in. But hey, I'm trying to make it more interesting for you folks. Lighten the frick up, man. Calm down, people. All right. So let me go to that and share it. And I may have to fiddle around with the timing, but let's go.
Yeah.
What am I leaving on the table by not booking with you?
Oh, yeah. So, I mean, there's definitely the usual breakfast daily, like full breakfast daily. There's the hotel credit, all that. And you can get that in some different channels. But for me,
Okay, so that's what I just talked about. You get the free breakfast, you get the extra room night, you might get a spa credit, et cetera. So she's touching on that. And then she gets into this.
What you're leaving on the table is, I mean, that Four Seasons director of sales or even the GM, when they come to Atlanta, we're off at Pond City Market having cocktails, or we've got a candle making class together. We're sitting by each other. It's like they know me. Sometimes, we're on each other's speed dial. We hug when we see each other. So when my travelers show up at the hotel, they are known. It's like we send them an email.
All right, let me stop right there. So a lot of the pushback, because that's where it kind of cut. It cut just a few seconds before that. A lot of the pushback was, yeah. So she gets to hug someone, and and I go to the hotel, and like, why do I care? Or oh, she gets to make candles. Oh, that's so great. Oh, the GM goes and he gets to go eat a steak and expense it, and that's supposed to help me. Hey, folks, it's called relationships. If the person that's booking you at a hotel has an intimate, personal business relationship with the property they're booking you on, what does that mean to you? It means that should you want something out of the ordinary, she can make that happen through that relationship. You're just another number coming through the door. Like, if I don't care, like, you're going to be treated really well at these high-end properties as one of those numbers. But imagine somebody that has a relationship can step in and do a little bit more for you. And this is where it continues on. It was cut off because we use, like I said, Opus Clips. It's an AI tool. I don't have, a bunch of video editors to go out and break it up. And I'm not going to spend a bunch of money unless the folks on TikTok want to pay for the content. Then yeah, sure, like, yeah. But everything's free out there today, folks. So we use the tools, and I explained it didn't have the full context. And here's where you go to get the full context. Nobody wants to hear that. They just want to bitch and moan. So here you go. Here's the rest of it. And here's where she gets into more details.
And says, hey, my person's coming. They have an anniversary, or, just take some extra good care of them. And it adds to that whole see and be seen, where you're not just a booking. I mean, these properties do a really good job anyway of really recognizing their guests, but it's just that extra layer, that extra someone to say, this is a VIP. I mean, it's kind of awkward to say of yourself, hey, I'm a VIP, don't you know who I am? And so it's better for me to send a thing and say, hey, this person, and maybe tell them a little bit about my travelers. Is it their first time there? Are they doing anything special? Do they just want to lay low and not be bothered? I mean, there's all kinds of things that I share with my partners.
That's all right. So what is she saying? She's basically saying she knows the customer, and she knows the customer better than the resort. She explains what they're looking for in their trip. And because she has cocktails and makes candles, with that person that's in charge of that resort and that guest experience, she has a direct line to that individual to talk to them about that customer, to make sure that they have an exceptional visit over and above what a standard visit could be. Now, not everybody wants that. I get it. Now, it's to each their own. But I know that when I travel and I stay at a high-end product, I'm blown away by how they know your name. Hi, Mr. Murphy. Good morning. Can I get you a coffee? Can I get you this? Can I get you? It's pretty nice. It's pretty nice. I don't know anybody that would complain about that, but sure enough, we had somebody complain about it. I just want to get my key and go to my room. Okay, dude, we're not talking about the Hampton Inn, bro. I get that. I roll in at 10 o'clock at night. Just give me my key. Let me go to bed. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about luxury travel, leisure travel. Again, if you're just hearing a 50-second clip and you don't know what we do, I get it. I get it. But then again, some folks are so dug in, so just like, and ironically, if you ask the typical person, do they have a higher IQ than average? Everyone says yes, which is literally impossible. Okay. Because it's the average. It's average. Whatever the average IQ is, yeah, there's going to be people above it, below it, right on it. But everybody thinks they're way above it. Well, let me jump to some of the comments that happened on TikTok. And I think you'll see what I'm talking about here and why it's kind of funny because make sure we don't have any sound coming in there. We don't want any sound. All right. I'm going to go to that particular video and I'm going to share that with you. Hang on a second. We're pausing that. Okay. Let me jump back and share that with you. And here you go. All right. So there she is on TikTok. And I'm going to expand that a bit so you can see all of the comments because they're great. There we go. And there we go. The comments come up. So now remember where she cut it off. She's like, oh, I know these people. We do all this different stuff with them, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And whoops, we're getting a little crazy here. Do that again. Okay. I never heard of a travel agent so clearly articulate why you do not need them. Her answer was 100% about her and 0% about her customer. And a lot of it was like, I'm still waiting to hear her articulate. It's a limited clip, folks. Pay a travel agent so hotel executives can entertain them. So that actually is kind of interesting. And people say to me, like, why would they why use a travel agent? And I say, well, you use it, why use a travel agent? I can give you a bunch of reasons. I've already done that. But why do the hotels and resorts court these people? So think of it this way. You think you're paying a travel agent. So number one, you typically don't pay a travel agent anything. They get paid by the resort. The resort sees the value in getting that business from the travel agent because the travel agent has thousands of customers, actually hundreds of thousands of customers, millions of customers over the course of a year across the whole agency channel just in the United States. So they've got a ton of people. Typical travel agent could sell a couple of $1 million a year to a number of these higher end properties. And so you ask yourself, why do they go out of their way, fly all the way from, let's say, I don't know, pick a place, Aruba or wherever, and they fly there to Atlanta and then get on the road and spend days and weeks going to conferences and trade shows. I'm talking about the general managers and the heads of sales, et cetera, and they court these people. So why are they doing that? Because they see the value that these people bring to the table for the resort. They bring high-end customers. They bring people and help them create curated experiences for them based on their insights to the individual. If I'm selling my neighbor down the street and I'm a travel agent or advisor, do I know more about the customer's needs and wants and desires than the resort they would just go pick of the thousands there's 1,000 hotels and resorts between Cancun Hotel Zone and just Tulum. And there are people saying, why would I use that travel agent? I was like, well, good luck figuring out the best hotels to stay at because a lot of them, they stayed at themselves and they sent customers there. And that resort executive realizes that customer that comes is just one customer of many that individual can sell over the course of just a year. And that's why they do it. So it's really interesting where the consumer who's getting the value of the insight and the expertise of that individual discounts it with some of these folks, but the executive at the hotel chain feels it's so important to have these relationships that they cut sweetheart deals and they go and spend a lot of time schmoozing with these individual agents. And guess what, folks? The hotel executive that's spending his own money, the client's, the hotel and resort's own money to do that. They have this thing called return on investment, ROI. I know a little bit about it. I ran businesses. I actually studied finance. That was my degree. When I spend time and effort to do something, I want to know what the return on that investment is going to be. So obviously they get a great return on investment. Otherwise they would not do it. They would say, just book direct with us. But they realize customers will book direct. They want to book with a trusted advisor. Just like if you have a financial advisor, you have a legal advisor, you have a really great realtor. I've invested in a bunch of real estate. I've worked with really good realtors and complete schmucks, people that have no clue. And I kicked one to the curb and ended up buying a couple of apartments in New York through somebody else who was much more knowledgeable than the person I initially started out with, because I was willing to work with somebody who knew what they were talking about. And I asked questions and I realized very quickly the person that I thought I was going to work with didn't know or didn't have the information I needed to make an informed decision. That's how it works. But it's kind of funny. It's like, kind of sounds like I need to pay extra so you can have drinks with hotel executives. Okay. How are you paying? How are you paying more? How are you paying more? You're actually getting a better deal. LOL, they know me means absolutely nothing. Okay. So they know it's your anniversary. The agent set up a candlelit dinner on the beach, just the two of you. And it's a surprise. When you get to your room, there's a bouquet of flowers, there's some chocolate, there's a fruit plate, there's all sorts of little special things. There might be a bottle of champagne to celebrate. Those are these little extras that change a normal trip into an extraordinary trip. Yeah, they know her. Yeah. And you know why that's important? Because now they've got advance notice of the customer and the customer's desires, and they bend over backwards to deliver an amazing experience, which reflects directly back on that seller of travel. In this case, Becky with My Bella Travels. And then I love this. This is a great one, Mr. Youssef. Okay, I'm sure he's staying at the Hampton Inn these days. So it doesn't matter that this agent refers a ton of business. The Four Seasons doesn't depend on her as a meaningful sales channel, so they don't need to accommodate her clients in any special way. That's like me expecting special treatment for referring people to McDonald's, a global, widely known brand. Oh, so again, let's back up. What did I just say? The general manager will fly to Las Vegas for the Virtuoso conference to meet with luxury travel advisors, agents, whatever the hell you want to call them, spend the whole week out there, spend hundreds of thousands of dollars because, yeah, they don't need the business, dude. You're right. Yeah, they just like to spend money and spend a week in Vegas. A week in Vegas is like Groundhog Day times 7. Like after 2 nights in Vegas, and I've been to Vegas more times than I can count, get me the hell out of Vegas. And that's how most people in the travel industry view Vegas. We go there because there's a lot of conferences, a lot of things you have to go there for. But nobody wants to stay a week in Vegas. Nobody. And do they want to spend $150,000 to sponsor a breakfast or a dinner for all those thousands of people that are there? Or are they just really generous? They just like to give money away. Oh man. You know, you do get everybody on platforms like this, obviously. So I just thought it would be great to highlight this, show you the context of what really was said. And, you know, try to explain to people that when you look at a clip on TikTok, it never has the full story, folks. Have you ever watched one of those auditors? Yeah, and then you try to find the second part or the third part or the fourth part. I'm not doing that to you. I'm telling people, hey, if you got more questions, you want to dive deeper, dive deeper. Go to the site, listen on a podcast, get the full context. And that's why I wrote, for those wondering, it's about the relationship the hotel or resort has with the advisor, and that includes perks that range from free nights, spa treatments, breakfast for the client. These are generally not available to those who DIY it using Expedia, et cetera, right? And then they're like, yeah, commission. Yeah, they get paid. And guess what? If it's $1,000 a night and you book it with the hotel, you give them $1,000 a night and you don't get the extra perks. If you book it I'll go back. Use my Peninsula example, 600. You book it $600 a night, $1,800. There you go. Great move. You remember best rate guarantee? You book it through a travel agent at $600 a night. And depending on the property and the perks, you might get a free night. Now it becomes $1,200 or $400 a night. And guess what? The resort or the hotel pays the travel agent if it comes through the travel agent. The rate doesn't change. The rate's the rate. It's best rate guarantee. It doesn't change. It is what it is. I hate that saying, by the way. I apologize to everyone else who hates that saying, but I just said it. So I will move on and try to do better. But again, this brings me full circle back to the travel agency channel. How good a job have the associations in the travel industry done for decades to communicate the value of travel agents? Really, really crappy. I hate to say it. I met with the head of ASTA years ago, way over 20 years ago. And I said, you're spending $3 million on a campaign in USA Today that says, without a travel agent, you're on your own. It's distributed in hotels that a lot of business travelers frequent. It's kind of a business travel audience. And a lot of those people are already booking that hotel with a travel agent. Like, what are you trying to communicate? Like, there's other ways to get that point across. But to this day, very, very poor on that effort. And that's why I have comments like, no need for travel agents. Agents are the landlines of travel. So 20th century. She makes candles with every GM in every hotel. You missed the point again. We have a pandemic, as I like to say, a pandemic of attention deficit disorder, which I think I'm clinically ADHD, folks, just saying. It's always been the case with me. Somebody I dated in college who's now a vice principal, maybe she's moved up, I don't know. She told me that if they saw me today, how she remembered me when she met me freshman year of college, she would have me medicated if she was the principal. So that's kind of funny. But again, here's more. How do I find a travel agent? They don't seem to exist. She didn't give any reason why she needed to accept that she gets access to hotel management. Okay. All right. So here's another one. So what you're telling me is you offer me nothing except a fee, which at the end of the day, it costs me more than it booked online. Okay. Wow. What's a travel agent? A hug, another antiquated industry. Here we go. That industry is as dead as the dodo. Yet the people that take your money when you get to the resort are the ones tripping over themselves to get more business from these people. I wonder why. Maybe because most of you commenting on here pretty much, you're not the clientele. I don't know who you are. I don't know your age bracket. I don't know what your income is. I don't know what the deal is. But there was one shining light on here, and it was somebody who said, let me see if I can. And I want to come back to Jeff here. Actually, let me just touch on these two, and then I'm going to show you actually a positive one. Here's Jeff. The manager doesn't give a blank about your travelers coming from you. For one, they don't know. What does it say came from Sarah, the travel agent, in their computer system? Yeah, hello. That's what I just explained. Yep. They do know, especially high-end hotels, and they know it was Sarah, and that Sarah is a loyal booker of this hotel and sends great customers to them, and you better take care of that customer. And by the way, here's some notes around the booking, because when they make the booking, they can do the anniversary, special meal, special beachfront, romantic dinner served with waiters, with white glove service. Yeah, all of that. Yeah, that's yeah. Plus, it's not the manager who's checking them in. It's a low level desk receptionist. Obviously, this person has never stayed at a Four Seasons or similar property. Just saying. And then this guy said, or woman, I don't know who it is, I would never book anything through a third party, ever. As a global traveler, the notion that I would ever face someone saying, you need to talk to your agent is completely unacceptable. Huh? The, the, what the F are you talking about? I haven't cursed this whole episode, which is great. I have a tendency to do that. So again, let me pat myself on the back. Yep. And then free breakfast or no free breakfast, risks are mine right there, right then. Notions of emergency, phone backup are not good solutions. Okay. Two completely misinformed people. And I'm looking for the one who booked their whole Disney trip with a travel agent and said um, they did everything for them. They made it a great trip. They made all the dinner reservations for them. Okay, I can't find it on this. I'm going to just jump out real quick here. So, just to be clear, the people commenting obviously have no clue for the most part. They're typically not people booking any kind of 4 or 5-star type of accommodations. They're probably the people you see on the Carnival cruise throwing down, in the in the bar area, or they're mad that they ran out of chicken wings, in the buffet, whatever it is, like chaos. This is not for Carnival cruise people, folks. You don't get special deals booking Carnival cruise through a travel agent for the most part. For the most part, there are some exceptions. I'm not going to get into that here. The reality is, if it's like they say, if you have to ask, you probably can't afford it. But if you have to comment um, and display that you have no clue, Mr. Global Traveler, what you're talking about, then confirmed, confirmed. And I know plenty of people, family members who know what I've done for decades in the space, covering the space, they'll still do it themselves. In fact, here's a great example. I referred somebody to a travel agent who specializes anniversary, romance, destination weddings, big time sandals producer, et cetera. And they decided that they were going to save about $1,200. Cool. But they weren't booking the same property. They were booking a property that when I did the follow up to say, hey, how did it go with so and so? He's like, well, I did a bunch of research for him, came back with 3 different recommendations based on the price points they gave me. They took it, and a few days later told me they were booking it themselves, and they've picked something different, and they saved about $1,200. So I called the dude and I said, oh, tell me where you booked, what'd you do, this and that. I'm not going to name the property, but a far cry from what they outlined for their budget, and a far cry from the actual experience that they would have had if they had taken the recommendation. Now, these people are salespeople. They're selling a portfolio. Their job is to match you with the right product. And you have to find the right travel agent, because just like with lawyers, doctors, you name it. I mean, have you been to the doctor lately? Do you trust everything the doctor tells you? Do you trust the hospital system? See the shirt I'm wearing, freedom? Yeah, freedom from forced vaccinations, freedom from tyranny, freedom from censorship, freedom, whatever it is, right? When I was getting treated for cancer, and this is in 2021, and I'm going for a follow-up, and thank God I was cured and everything was great, but you have to go every few months. They have to look at you. And I went in and I said, that one of the questions they asked me, because I hadn't been there since, I guess it was every 6 months at that point. So I was there like in January, and now it's July. And now the vaccines are out and everybody can get a vaccine. And they said, hey, did you get the COVID vaccine? I said, well, no, I didn't get the COVID vaccine because I have natural immunity. I had COVID 3 months ago. Oh, and by the way, they just drew my blood as the first thing before sitting down with you. And you can see that my antibodies to fight COVID are through the roof, through the roof. So they said, we don't know how long natural immunity lasts. I said, how long does the vaccine last? And being in the space I'm in and being retired at that point, I had all the time in the world to research the data coming out of Singapore, the data coming out of, at this point, Israel in the summer of 2021. And the vaccine was failing miserably. It wasn't doing jack shit. There you go. I think I could say that. It wasn't doing anything. And the numbers, because they have socialized medicine in Israel and everything's recorded, said it wasn't working. It wasn't doing crap. But they still thought I should get vaccinated, even though I had antibodies from natural immunity. And the logic was, we don't know how long natural immunity lasts. And I go, okay, how long does the vaccine last? I knew how long it lasts. I knew it didn't work. And they said, we don't know. And I said, you know what? That's cool. I'm going to trust my body. How many times I've had COVID? One time. How many times do have family and friends who got double vaxxed and boosted numerous times had COVID? A lot. And you probably know a bunch of them. So again, who are you going to trust? To me, I do my own research to a point. I gather the information I can gather, and then I make my own choice and my own decision. And again, if you work with a travel agent, they're not in the medical profession. But again, it's like, tell me a profession. Do you trust politicians? Oh, hell no, on both sides. Do you trust the medical community today? Not at all. Not at all. Do you trust the AMA? We're finding that data has been hidden. So do I say go trust everything a travel agent tells you? No. Validate it. Talk to one of the customers they've booked previously that stayed at that resort, for instance, and what made the difference. Find out how many times they've booked that resort. Or are you the guinea pig? Find out what kind of relationship they have. How long they've been in business. What makes you trust their advice if you've never been to that country? And in the end, depending on what you're doing, travel-wise, you may find that doing it yourself is the way to do it. And like I said, I do stuff myself. I also use travel agents. I use travel agents where I get more value. I do it myself when it's a simple point to point. So if I go to Boulder, Colorado, where my kids live, and I need to book a hotel there, I don't worry about the travel agent per se. I look at the Fine Hotels and Resorts program and see, is there a hotel there, like the Julian, that gives more value if I book it through the FHR program with an American Express travel agent? And the answer is yes. So therefore, I use the agent. If there are no properties walkable to my kid's house in Boulder, then guess what? I just book it myself. Do I need a travel agent to book the airline ticket? No. Is it simple point to point? Yep. Am I a multi-million mile flyer? Yep. When would I use a travel agent? Well, if I was going overseas and I wanted to fly business class, for instance, and I know that the travel agent can get access to something called consolidator fares, which are a little more restricted, but if my dates are set, I can go ahead and save thousands of dollars on a airline ticket, business class, going to Europe. And I can do that because I booked through the co-chair partner that happens to be, let's say, TAP Air Portugal, who's co-chaired with XYZ, and the price to book on their platform for the same exact seat on the same exact flights is cheaper than if I went through, let's say, American Airlines. I'm just making it up because I've done that. And there are ways to find better deals. And there's even ways to work with different agency groups that can use miles to supplement what you're buying to get you upgrades. There's all sorts of gimmicks, games, things. Your job as a consumer is to find someone who really knows what they're doing And our job on traveltube.com is to showcase these travel experts and give you insights into the products they're reviewing, what their thoughts are. And you don't have to agree with everything they say. But if you're not putting it in context, and you can blame me because the clip's only 55 seconds long and the whole segment for that particular interview was 55 minutes and the complete context was almost 2 minutes. Yeah, some stuff's going to drop off. Is it perfect? Nope. Unless you want to start paying me to hire a video editor, then I'm going to keep using Opus because it's cheap. And 9 times out of 10, it comes off like a charm. But obviously, this particular post, woo, went nuts and it's still going nuts. So, anyway, hopefully we clarified that. We're going to now use Opus to break this podcast up and put out pieces that hopefully will have more context and address it. So, again, I ask you to follow us on your favorite podcast app. We're on Apple, Spotify, and Amazon Podcasts. We're on Instagram. We're on TikTok. We're on Facebook. We're on YouTube. And just look for the cool logo over my shoulder if you're watching. If you're not watching, it's the traveltube.com. That's the platform. There's people using TravelTube, the TravelTube, all sorts of versions, and most of them are overseas. There's nothing here in the States because we own the trademark to traveltube.com, and it's that cool Art Deco logo. So I appreciate you hanging in there and listening. And I also do appreciate the folks commenting on TikTok. I completely disagree and think most of them don't know what the hell they're talking about, but it gives us that opportunity to create a teachable moment. So maybe you got a teachable moment. That's Mr. Murphy in the classroom. Hey, Mr. Murphy. If I was a teacher, I'd probably bring a basketball and be bouncing it all day because that was my thing. I used to drive everybody nuts. Basketball Murph. And a shout out to Bubble Up. You'll know who I'm talking about. Anyway, till next time. Thanks for tuning in.